Hello, everyone. I'm Mark, a 33-year-old man who once believed he had the perfect marriage. But before I dive into the mess my life became, I have a question for you. What would you do if you walked in on your wife, the woman you loved and trusted deeply, making out with not one, but two men on your very own bed? It's a scene that still haunts me. But let me start from the beginning. I met Tracy when she was 29. It was a chance encounter at the movies, one of those serendipitous moments that you think could only happen in a romance film. I had gone to see a new release with a couple of my friends, just a regular guys' night out. Little did I know that my life would change the moment I saw her. Tracy was there with her group of girlfriends, laughing and having a great time. She was hard to miss, her laughter was infectious, and her smile could light up the darkest room. As fate would have it, we ended up sitting a few rows apart, and during the intermission, I mustered up the courage to strike up a conversation. "You enjoying the movie?" I asked, leaning casually against the theater wall. "It's great, but I think the book was better," she replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. From that moment, we hit it off. We exchanged numbers, texted constantly, and before long, we were seeing each other almost every day. Our relationship blossomed quickly, and within a year, we were married. Looking back, I wonder if we rushed into things. But at the time, everything felt right. In the beginning, being married to Tracy felt like a dream come true. We were genuinely happy, or at least that's what I thought. I did everything I could to be a good husband, to support her dreams and ambitions. Tracy, in turn, seemed like the perfect wife. She was sweet, supportive, and intelligent. A real catch. "You're too good to be true," I used to tell her, and she would laugh, giving me a playful punch on the shoulder. "You're stuck with me now, so no backing out," she'd tease back. For the first 2 years, our marriage was smooth sailing. We had our routines, our little inside jokes, and I truly believed we were building a life together. Tracy was working at a fast food restaurant at the time, while I was employed as a graphic designer at a company that specialized in printing banners, billboards, and other large-scale designs. Our combined income was decent, but I took on most of the financial responsibilities at home. Tracy used her earnings to chase her childhood dream, acting. You see, before we got married, Tracy had confided in me about her lifelong passion for acting. She told me how she had always wanted to become an actress, but her parents had never supported her dream. They insisted she study something more practical in college, so she ended up majoring in a field she had little interest in. When she told me she still dreamed of being on stage, I could see how much it meant to her. "It's not just a hobby, Mark. It's who I am," she told me one evening, her voice tinged with frustration. "I just never had the chance to pursue it." I understood her feelings more than she knew. As someone who had also given up on a dream, my dream of being an artist, I knew what it was like to bury a passion for the sake of practicality. So, when Tracy asked if I was okay with her pursuing acting again, I didn't hesitate. "Of course, go for it. I'll support you every step of the way," I assured her, squeezing her hand. From then on, I did everything I could to help her. We both agreed to put off having kids until after she completed her training at a theater arts academy we hoped she would attend in the near future. Tracy joined drama clubs, volunteered for local theater productions, and even took a few online courses to hone her skills. She was naturally talented, a fact that became apparent when I watched her perform in front of the mirror, reciting lines with the intensity of a seasoned actress. "I can see you on the big screen one day," I'd tell her, grinning from ear to ear. "You really think so?" she'd ask, her eyes full of hope. "I know so." Despite her efforts, the journey wasn't easy. The first year of our marriage was filled with applications to various acting gigs, but the responses were slow to come. Tracy became disheartened, at one point considering giving up. "Maybe it's just not meant to be," she sighed one night after another rejection email. "Don't say that," I encouraged her. "You're talented, Tracy. It's just a matter of time." And sure enough, a few months after our first wedding anniversary, the opportunity we'd been waiting for finally arrived. She received an email inviting her to audition for a local play. They were looking for fresh faces, and Tracy was ecstatic. "They want me to audition!" she practically screamed, her eyes wide with disbelief. "That's amazing! You're going to nail it," I replied, sharing in her excitement. The best part was that the auditions were happening right in our town, which meant she had plenty of time to prepare. When the day of the audition arrived, Tracy was a bundle of nerves, but I reassured her, giving her a kiss for good luck. "Break a leg, babe. You've got this," I whispered as she left for the theater. She did more than just break a leg, she crushed it. Tracy was selected for the role, and the look on her face when she told me the news was one of pure joy. "I got the part, and they're even paying us for rehearsals," she exclaimed, her happiness infectious. It felt like everything was finally falling into place. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. I never expected the rehearsals to change Tracy, but they did. At first, everything seemed the same. During the initial weeks, our communication remained strong, and we continued to do the things we enjoyed together. The only noticeable difference was the reduction in our weekend time. Tracy's rehearsals consumed her Saturdays and Sundays, leaving her with little energy for anything else. She'd wake up early, clean the house, cook breakfast, and then head out for a full day of rehearsals. She'd return late in the evening, exhausted but excited about her new role. Even though I wasn't entirely comfortable with this new arrangement, I kept my concerns to myself. After all, this was her first real opportunity to pursue her passion, and I didn't want to dampen her enthusiasm. Besides, the weekend compensation she was receiving from the play was more than she earned in an entire week at the fast food job. I kept telling myself that this was just a temporary phase, and soon things would return to normal. But as the weeks passed, something changed between us. Tracy and I began to grow distant, a gap forming in our once solid relationship. To fill the void, I found myself diving deeper into video games, hanging out more with my friends, or inviting them over to our house. My friends were people I'd known since high school and college, guys I trusted completely. One night, as we were lounging in the living room, I casually mentioned Tracy's acting gig and how much time it was taking up. Eric, one of my closest friends, gave me a concerned look. "Mark, have you ever heard those stories about women who sleep with directors to get better roles?" Eric asked, his tone serious. "Come on, Eric. Tracy's not like that," I responded, brushing off his concern. "She didn't sleep with anyone to get this part. She's genuinely talented." "Maybe so," Eric continued, "but I'd keep an eye on her if I were you. You know how it is in the acting world. Temptations are everywhere, and not all relationships survive." Another friend, Mike, chimed in. "Yeah, man. New actors and actresses, they're notorious for getting involved in affairs. Just be careful." I waved off their concerns, confident in Tracy's loyalty. "Guys, I trust her completely. She wouldn't hurt me or ruin what we have. We're solid." But despite my outward confidence, their words lingered in my mind. I found myself becoming more suspicious, my thoughts clouded by doubts I couldn't shake. I started asking Tracy strange questions, questions that hinted at my insecurities. One evening, after she had come home from rehearsal, I couldn't help but probe. "So, how was your day? Who were you working with?" "It was fine," Tracy replied, her response curt. "Just the usual people. Why do you ask?" I could tell she was starting to notice the change in me, the subtle shift in my tone, the way I watched her a little more closely than before. Eventually, she confronted me about it. "Mark, what's going on with you? You've been acting weird lately." "All these questions, what's up with that?" she asked, her voice tinged with frustration. Feeling cornered, I decided to come clean. "Look, I'm sorry. It's just that my friends, they've been saying things. They warned me that some actresses, they get involved with their directors to get ahead." Tracy stared at me in disbelief before bursting into laughter. "Mark, seriously? You think I'd cheat on you? I love you, and only a foolish and ungrateful woman would ever do that to the best husband in the world." Her laughter and reassurances eased my mind, at least for a little while. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, convincing myself that everything was fine. But in reality, Tracy was doing what she did best. Acting. She had already started cheating on me even before we had that conversation, though I was too blind to see it. As the weeks went by, Tracy changed even more. It was as if she had become a different person, someone I could hardly recognize. Our conversations began to feel forced, lacking the warmth and excitement we once shared. The sparkle in her eyes that I used to see when she came home was gone, replaced by a cold, distant expression. Before these changes, Tracy had always been an open book. She would come home and excitedly tell me about her day, recounting every detail of the rehearsals. I knew all the names of the people she worked with, their personalities, even what they looked like, despite never meeting them in person. We were that close, and I cherished those moments when she'd share everything with me. But suddenly, all of that stopped. Not only did she withdraw from our conversations, but she also became increasingly defensive. The jokes we used to share, the lighthearted banter, all of it seemed to irritate her now. She took offense to almost everything I said, twisting my words into something negative. It was like walking on eggshells around her, never knowing what would set her off. One day, I noticed Tracy had upgraded her wardrobe. She had always been fashionable, but now she started wearing clothes that were more revealing, outfits that she specifically chose for her rehearsal days. I couldn't help but comment on it. "Tracy, do you really need to wear something like that to rehearsal? It's a bit much, don't you think?" She rolled her eyes and brushed off my concern. "These are the latest trends, Mark. You're just old-fashioned." I tried to believe her, convincing myself that she was only trying to keep up with the other actresses. Tracy had always been competitive when it came to fashion, so it didn't seem completely out of character. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My suspicions grew stronger when I noticed she was changing her hairstyle every week and spending more time on the phone, often talking to a man she claimed was a fellow actor. One evening, after she had just hung up the phone, I confronted her. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. "Just a guy from the play. We were going over some lines," she replied nonchalantly. I didn't believe her, and the tension between us continued to build. Then, one day, she did something that finally pushed me over the edge. It was a small incident, something trivial, but it enraged me. When I voiced my frustration, Tracy snapped. She yelled at me, something she had never done before, and then stormed out of the room, leaving me standing there, stunned. That evening, after Tracy had gone to bed, I called my friends over. We sat in the living room, and I told them everything. The changes, the defensiveness, the phone calls. They listened quietly before Eric spoke up. "Mark, I hate to say it, but it sounds like she's cheating on you." I shook my head, refusing to believe it. "No, there's got to be another explanation. Maybe she's just stressed out, taking it out on me." "Don't be naive," Mike said bluntly. "You're blinded by love, man. If you really want to know the truth, hire a private investigator. Find out for sure." Their words hit me hard, but I wasn't ready to accept the possibility that Tracy was being unfaithful. After all, I had sacrificed so much to support her dreams. I wasn't just her husband. I was her biggest fan, her constant cheerleader. I couldn't believe she would throw that away for a fling. But as much as I wanted to ignore it, the doubts were now impossible to silence. Something had to be done, and soon. Little did I know, the truth would be far worse than I could have ever imagined. I wasn't thrilled about the idea of someone following Tracy around, but given how drastically her behavior had changed, I felt like I had no other choice. The following week, I found a private investigator online and hired him to follow her for a week. On the third day of surveillance, Tracy didn't come home after rehearsals. When she finally returned the next day, she said she had gone to a club to celebrate a fellow actress's birthday and ended up crashing at a nearby hotel because it seemed safer than traveling back home so late. What struck me as odd was that she hadn't mentioned this party to me beforehand, and when I tried calling her the night before, she didn't pick up until 3 a.m. her excuse. The loud music drowned out the ringtone. But what really got under my skin was her insistence that she had told me about the party, claiming that I just wasn't paying attention. I had my doubts, but I knew I'd soon get to the bottom of it since the PI was still tailing her. A few days passed without any updates from the PI, and by the time he finally got in touch, I was out of town visiting my parents. He told me he had some things to show me, so instead of heading home, I drove straight to meet him. Tracy had no idea I was coming back that day. I had told her I'd be home on Monday morning, but I ended up returning on Saturday. When I met the PI, he laid it all out in front of me, and what I saw absolutely shattered me. He had photos and videos of Tracy with a blonde guy who, as it turned out, was her affair partner. There were pictures of them kissing in her car, shopping together, eating out, just living life like a couple. One video in particular hit me like a ton of bricks. It was from the night Tracy had supposedly gone to the birthday party. The footage showed her with this guy, clubbing together, then leaving around 10 p.m. to go back to his apartment where she spent the night. This wasn't just some innocent night out. She saw my calls and deliberately ignored them. The PI then dropped another bombshell. He told me he had followed Tracy that evening, and she was currently with her affair partner at my home. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with rage and heartbreak. My entire world seemed to be collapsing around me. The PI offered to drive me home, since I was too angry to even think straight. And when we arrived, I saw a blue Toyota Venza parked in my driveway, the same car from the photos and videos. I knew without a doubt that Tracy was in there with him. Fueled by anger, I stormed into the house, with the PI trailing behind me. I burst into our bedroom and found Tracy in bed with not one, but two men. The tall blonde guy was on top of her, while the other man was doing something too disgusting to even describe. Tracy was dressed in a skimpy fishnet lingerie, and her hands were cuffed to the bedpost. The sight was nauseating. I didn't know who to lash out at first. Tracy, realizing the situation, tried to get up, but the cuffs restrained her. I attacked the blonde guy, while the other man scrambled to grab his clothes and flee like a coward. Thankfully, the PI was there to pull me back before I did something I'd regret for the rest of my life. As all this unfolded, Tracy, still cuffed to the bed, started begging me to listen. She said I had it all wrong, claiming that she was merely rehearsing a role for a play with the men. The sheer absurdity of her excuse only made me more furious. I was on the brink of losing control, but instead of doing something drastic, I stormed out of the room and told her to be gone by the time I got back. The PI, who had recorded everything, handed me the footage. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I took it anyway. That night, I crashed at a friend's place, utterly humiliated by the fact that he had been right about Tracy and her so-called acting career. The most gut-wrenching part was knowing that she had been involved in a threesome in our bed, in our home. The next morning, I returned to find Tracy still in the house. She hadn't gone to rehearsals, probably because she knew how badly she had messed up. Seeing her there only reignited my anger, and I kicked her out, throwing her belongings onto the lawn while she pleaded with me to listen. She spent almost an hour outside, shouting my name and begging for a chance to explain. But when she realized I wasn't going to budge, her tone shifted. She started hurling insults at me before finally storming off. This all happened just last week, and I've been a wreck ever since. I can't wrap my head around how all of this happened right under my nose. I wasn't the kind of husband who pampered Tracy too much or ignored her. We shared responsibilities. She did most of the chores, and I always tried to be level-headed. But now, looking back, I realized there were red flags that I just didn't want to see. As I look back on everything that happened, I realize I should have started digging the moment our communication began to falter and Tracy began upgrading her wardrobe. But is that really how marriage is supposed to be? Are we meant to suspect our spouses the moment they start dressing differently or seem too tired to talk after work? I didn't think so, but now I'm not so sure. What eats at me the most is how Tracy won't stop calling me ever since I kicked her out. She's relentless. I've been contemplating the perfect revenge and thought about sending the video I have to her director. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for your comments and support. I'm glad you all agree that I'm not overreacting. Someone suggested that I look into the identity of the second guy in the video, and so I did. You won't believe what I found out. He's bisexual and is currently in a relationship with Tracy's director. Yeah, you read that right. Her director, the one who trusted her and gave her this big break, is going to be in for a nasty shock when he finds out that Tracy seduced his boyfriend. Speaking of Tracy, she showed up at my place 3 days ago. She looked absolutely miserable, her eyes puffy from crying. Unfortunately for her, my friends were over at the time. They didn't say anything to her, but their expressions and the way they rolled their eyes really got under her skin. Tracy got so worked up seeing me just hanging out with my buddies while she stood there, begging me to take her back, that she snapped. "So this is it, Mike? You're just gonna let your friends disrespect your wife because of a small disagreement?" she shouted, her voice shaking with frustration. I could hear every word from inside the house, but I didn't move a muscle. I wanted to see how far she'd go. But when she had the nerve to say that, I couldn't hold back anymore. I stormed outside, ready to lay into her, but my friend grabbed my arm and held me back. At that moment, I was so furious that I was willing to get arrested just to show her how deeply she'd hurt me. Before she left, she caused quite a scene, going on and on about all the promises we made to each other. She reminded me how we had vowed to grow old together. My anger was boiling over, but I still held back. When she didn't get any reaction out of me, she got desperate and brought up the theater academy I had promised to help her with. "What about the Theater Art Academy, Mike? The one you promised to support me with?" she asked, her voice tinged with desperation. I wanted to yell at her, to tell her to go ask her affair partners for help instead, but I kept my mouth shut. I just wanted her gone. After standing there for what felt like an eternity, she finally got the hint and left, her shame hanging in the air like a dark cloud. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer, and the papers are being drawn up as we speak. Once they're ready, she'll get them served. As for revenge, I'm taking your advice. Sending that video to her director might not completely destroy her career, but it'll definitely shatter everything she's worked so hard to build over these past few months. Knowing that she cheated on me with her director's boyfriend makes me even more determined to go through with this. Thank you all for your suggestions. I'll keep you updated. Update 2. Hey guys, I'm really excited to share this update because things have gotten way messier for Tracy than I ever anticipated. After my last update, it took me about 2 weeks to track down her director online, but I finally found him. He's a relatively new face in the movie industry, but he's been making quite a name for himself. We arranged to meet, and when he showed up, he was eager to hear what I had to say. I told him I had something important to show him about his boyfriend and one of his actresses. When we met, I didn't waste any time. We exchanged a few pleasantries, but then I pulled out my phone and showed him the video, the one where his boyfriend, the blonde guy, and Tracy were all over each other. His face fell as he watched, his eyes welling up with tears. No kidding, the guy actually cried right there in front of me. I suspected he was up to something with one of the cast members, but I wasn't sure. I never caught them, he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. He's cheated on me before, once when he was drunk, but I forgave him. He begged me to take him back. I wasn't really interested in his boyfriend's past mistakes. What I cared about was what he was going to do to Tracy and her lover. When I asked him about it, he seemed lost, unsure of what steps to take next. You can't just let them get away with this, I urged him, especially not after what Tracy did to you. Long story short, he ended up firing both Tracy and her blonde affair partner. I don't know if he broke up with his boyfriend after that, but I do know that Tracy's career took a nosedive. Watching her hard work disintegrate like dust in the wind was strangely satisfying. I wanted her to feel the pain of putting her heart and soul into something, only to have it all destroyed by someone else. By the time she got fired, the divorce papers were ready, and my lawyer sent them over to her. The day she received them, she called me, her voice trembling with fear and desperation. She begged me not to destroy everything we had built together. "Mike, please, don't do this. Don't ruin everything we've worked so hard to build," she pleaded. But I had no sympathy left for her. "You ruined it the day you decided to cheat on me," I told her coldly. "And just so you know, I'm the one who showed that video to your director. I'm the reason all your hard work has gone down the drain." I could hear her gasp on the other end of the line, and then she exploded. "I knew it. I knew you were jealous of me. You hated that I was following my passion while you couldn't." Her words were like poison, but I wasn't about to let them affect me. I hung up the phone, feeling strangely at peace. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had taken control of my life again. I couldn't help but laugh when Tracy called me, trying to stir up trouble. I knew exactly what she was trying to do, so I just hung up on her. She had already signed the divorce papers 2 weeks ago, and with that, I'm officially making this update as a divorced man. It hurts, I won't lie about that, but I'm also relieved. She's out of my life now, and I'm ready to move on. Thank you all for your support and comments. Now, on to the next chapter. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more juicy relationship tales. Now, let's get back to the next story. I'm 36, my wife is 34, and I recently discovered that she's been cheating on me. To be honest, I have no idea what to do next. But let me give you some backstory first. We've been together for nearly 17 years, and we have 3 kids. We live in an old house that we've been slowly restoring over the past 2 years. It hasn't been easy. Our budget is tight, we have no savings, and we're drowning in debt. My wife is the only woman I've ever been with, and before me, she had only a couple of one-night stands. So we were both pretty inexperienced when we met. She's been the light of my life, and we've weathered some really tough times together. I always thought we were one of those rare couples who could stay strong no matter what. But now, I see how wrong I was. With everything going on, trying to fix up the house, both of us working full-time and struggling to make ends meet, we lost ourselves along the way. The financial stress and health issues didn't help either. My wife has been trying to lose weight for a long time, but nothing seemed to work, and her self-esteem hit rock bottom. We were both depressed, but instead of supporting each other, we just retreated into our own worlds. I buried myself in computer games to escape our problems, while she spent all her time glued to her phone. This past spring and summer, things went from bad to worse. My wife started spending more time with her friends, going out partying, while I stayed home with the kids. I thought if I gave her some space to blow off steam, she'd come back in a better mood. But that didn't happen at all. Instead, I couldn't shake this bad feeling that was settling in the pit of my stomach. I heard a rumor that she'd been seen kissing some guy at a dance in a nearby town. When I confronted her about it, she denied everything, saying the guy tried to kiss her, but she pushed him away. I wasn't entirely convinced, but I didn't want to push her too hard. I was trying to show her that I still trusted her. But as the summer dragged on, I noticed she was getting more and more secretive about her phone. She was constantly guarding it, like it was a matter of life and death. One night in August, by sheer chance, I caught a glimpse of her Facebook password. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to take a look. I wanted to see if there was any truth to the rumors about that dance earlier in the summer. What I found was far worse than I could have ever imagined. Not only had she kissed that guy, but she had been drunk out of her mind when it happened. Her friend had to pull her away, but that was nothing compared to what I discovered next. I accessed her Messenger and Skype accounts, and that's when I uncovered the real betrayal. She had been chatting online with two foreign guys, let's call them A and B, for months. It all started on Instagram. Some random guy, A, sent her flattering messages, and she started talking to him on Skype. By early June, after less than 2 weeks of chatting, she started sharing nude photos with him, even though she initially resisted. The incident with the guy she kissed happened later that month, but by then, she was already deep into her online relationship with A. She kept talking to him until mid-August, when he finally showed his true colors. He turned out to be a scammer using a stolen account. He was just sending her pictures from someone else's profile, but she had been so fooled that she shared her most intimate photos with him. It seemed like she was falling for him, even though he wasn't real. By the time A revealed his true intentions, my wife had already started talking to another guy, B, which also began on Instagram. It didn't take long for their conversations to escalate to nude pictures and sexual talk as well. In both cases, they fantasized about meeting in our country and hooking up at a hotel. Throughout all of this, she never spoke badly of me. She talked about me like I was just there, like I was a piece of furniture. If they asked, she said that I treated her well, but she also made it clear that talking to them made her feel good, something I apparently couldn't do anymore. But the worst part was yet to come. In one of her chats with a female friend, I found something even more disturbing. In early July, my wife and this friend went to a 2-day town festival in a nearby town. They stayed in a rented room, which I had agreed to because I thought it was just a harmless girls' trip. I even knew that her friend had anxiety issues and needed to stay overnight at the local hospital. What I didn't know, until I read the chat between my wife and her friend, was that she had mentioned a 41-year-old guy from our town, let's call him C. He's a married man with kids, unhappy in his own relationship, and they met that night at the festival. According to her, he tried to take things further, but she claimed she stopped him. She didn't reveal his name in the chat, but our town is small, and I found a likely suspect. My suspicions were confirmed when I checked my phone records and saw that she had sent a message to a number that matched the description of this guy. At that point, I feared the worst. I didn't confront her right away because I didn't want to cause a scene while the kids were around. Instead, I played it cool and waited. On Saturday, August 24th, I called my mom and arranged for her to take care of the kids for the evening. I knew I had to confront my wife about everything I had found, but I wanted to do it calmly. When she got home from her classes, she's been taking some courses to earn a degree for work, I asked her to sit with me. There was no yelling, no violence, just a quiet conversation between two sad, broken people, one of whom was deeply hurt and angry. I told her everything I knew. She didn't deny it. Instead, she promised that nothing had happened between her and C, insisting that her online activities were just a misguided attempt to boost her self-esteem. She explained that she thought I had stopped loving her because she wasn't losing weight, and when those guys started showering her with compliments, she became addicted to the attention. She said she hadn't meant to hurt me, that she was selfish and just wanted to keep receiving those compliments, so she sent them nude photos. She admitted that she hadn't realized how much she was hurting me until it was too late. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I had my doubts. We decided to try and fix our marriage, to seek counseling, and see if we could rebuild what was broken. As the weeks went by, things seemed to improve. She was more affectionate, more caring, and our sex life had even picked up. We were spending more time together than we had in years, but despite the improvements, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still hiding something from me. After our second session with the marriage counselor last week, she finally admitted the full truth. She had, in fact, slept with C that night in July. Even though she said she felt terrible and ashamed afterwards, she continued talking to him on social media. She admitted to meeting with him twice more, but she insisted it was just a bit of kissing, nothing more. She also confessed that she tried to contact him again a few days after our confrontation in August. When she told me all of this, my first reaction was to freeze. I didn't yell, curse, or lash out. I didn't even cry. I just felt an overwhelming sense of relief that she had finally told me the truth, but it was accompanied by a deep, humiliating pain. I felt hurt in a way I had never experienced before. I didn't want to make any rash decisions, so I haven't thrown the ring in her face or confronted C. I don't want to be the guy who rats him out to his wife, and I certainly don't want to end up in jail for assault. After all, it wasn't him who broke our marriage vows, it was my wife. I'm at a loss. The woman I thought I knew would never have done something like this. She's been begging me for another chance, calling herself an idiot, selfish, and worse. She says she feels awful about hurting me, and that she's willing to do anything to fix the situation, to make me trust her again, to prove that she's worthy of my love. But I'm not sure if I can ever trust her again or look at her the same way. I still love her, of course, and I enjoy being around her. Seeing her smile brings me a small sense of peace, but there's also a sharp pain in my heart every time I think about what she did. I want to make this work for the sake of our kids, and because of our terrible financial situation, we can't afford a divorce. But I'm terrified that if I go through with this, I'll lose myself in the process and never regain any self-respect. How can I possibly forgive her for cheating on me with not just one guy, but 3, or 4 if you count that kiss with the random guy at the dance? It wasn't just a one-time drunken mistake. It was an ongoing emotional and physical affair with multiple men over the course of 2 months. It doesn't matter if 2 of those relationships were only online. The fact is, she still planned to meet them, fully aware of what would likely happen. Has anyone here gone through something similar and has some good advice? I know it's easy to say, just divorce her, man, and move on, but it's not that simple. I still have feelings for her, and I don't know what will happen with our kids and our families. I also fear that if I divorce her, which would make the truth known to her family and friends, she might harm herself, or at least end up in a mental state that could negatively affect our kids. We also have an unfinished house and no savings, so we need to finish fixing it in order to get any cash from selling it. Update. After getting lots of great advice from you guys and talking with my closest friends, I finally got the encouragement I needed to have faith in myself. I opened my eyes to the reality I had been avoiding. There was no way I could ever get over what my wife did. So last Thursday, I told her that I wanted to end our marriage. I think she knew it was coming because she didn't seem that surprised. She didn't even try to persuade me otherwise. She just kept repeating like a broken record, "Nothing I say will change anything." When I asked her to say something, there was a lot of crying, and she called in sick to work. Since then, we've been telling our closest friends and family about the upcoming divorce, but she's been extremely hesitant to admit what she did to her parents. My mother knows everything, but for some reason, I agreed not to tell my in-laws just yet. Maybe I'm afraid of a war between us during the divorce process, so I gave her some time to tell them herself. When we met them last Sunday, we told them about the divorce, but since we had to leave 2 of our kids with them for 3 days due to a school holiday, it didn't seem like the right time to come clean about their daughter's multiple affairs. Instead, we said there were some unsolvable disagreements, which felt terrible for me to say because they seemed so disappointed. They've been part of my family for almost 17 years, and I care about them. They've been really supportive to us over the years, both financially and emotionally, and they love spending time with our kids. I felt awful lying to them, but I'm worried that if I spill the beans now, my soon-to-be ex-wife will become hostile and make the divorce even more difficult. But my patience isn't limitless. I will tell them eventually if my wife doesn't come clean soon. I don't want the real reasons for the divorce to become public, as we live in a small community, and the truth would eventually get back to my kids, and they might get bullied because of it. I'd rather the truth stay within our closest circle, while the official reason remains that we divorced due to growing apart, wanting different things, etc. I also don't want to be known as the poor guy whose wife cheated on him with multiple men. Now, there are some big loose ends to tie up. We need to sell our house and find separate apartments. We'll share custody, with the kids spending 1 week with me and the next with their mother. I also feel that their legal address should be with me, so I won't have to pay her child support. It would be unfair after what she did. I have no idea how this will end. But in my country, the mother often tends to get what she wants, as everyone always feels sorry for them. But I will fight for my kids no matter what. So, dear friends, if you're enjoying these stories, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more juicy relationship tales. Thanks for your support.